Welcome to our channel. We are so glad you found your way here. Let us help you fall asleep. Let's begin with the quiet collapse of Adelphia, the cable television company corporate failure. Take a slow, deep breath in and release it. Even the tallest towers eventually quiet down. Tonight, we gently explore the empty boardrooms and forgotten ambitions of the past. Your mind is calm, and we are ready to begin. The story begins in 1986, when two brothers, John and Gus Rixey, founded the company in Coudersport, Pennsylvania. Initially, it emerged as a modest cable television operator, seeking to serve the burgeoning demands of a growing media landscape. Within a few years, the company adopted the name Adelphia, derived from the Greek word for brothers, reflecting the familial ties that underscored its ambitions. As Adelphia expanded, it acquired numerous local cable franchises, gradually increasing its footprint across multiple states. By the late 1990s, the company had ascended into a prominent position within the industry, boasting millions of subscribers. The focus on customer service and the drive for innovation propelled this rise, as it invested heavily in infrastructure to support an array of channels and services. During these formative years, the organization capitalized on the rapid growth of cable television, benefiting from technological advancements that facilitated expansion into new markets. The Rixey brothers cultivated a reputation for aggressive acquisitions, enhancing Adelphia's portfolio at a pace that reflected the optimism of the era. Its early success was characterized by a commitment to offering diverse programming options, fostering loyalty among subscribers. Yet beneath the surface of this expansion lay the complexities of financial management, foreshadowing the tumultuous journey ahead. The decade of the 1980s witnessed a profound transformation in the media landscape. This period marked the rise of cable television, fundamentally altering how households consumed content. The proliferation of channels created a new environment where viewers were no longer limited to a handful of options. This shift fostered an insatiable demand for variety and innovation, compelling companies to produce an array of programming that catered to diverse interests. As competition intensified, the allure of cable became increasingly apparent. Substantial investments poured into infrastructure, with providers racing to expand their reach. This region experienced unprecedented growth, with millions of homes connecting to cable services eager to access premium entertainment. The expansion was not merely a technical achievement, it represented a cultural shift, as families gathered around screens to enjoy the emerging stream of content. Adelphia, among many others, capitalized on the fertile environment, positioning itself as a player in this burgeoning industry. They aimed to capture the enthusiasm of subscribers eager for new offerings. The rapid escalation of subscriber numbers initially painted a picture of prosperity. However, within this burgeoning marketplace, the seeds of overextension and financial mismanagement began to take root. The very success that fueled growth also laid the groundwork for the challenges that would soon unravel the fabric of this ambitious enterprise. The ambitious enterprise expanded aggressively during its early years, pursuing a strategy marked by the acquisition of smaller cable companies. This approach allowed it to rapidly increase its subscriber base and geographical reach. Each acquisition added to the overarching structure, creating a network of services that spanned across regions, fulfilling the burgeoning demand for cable television. In this era of growth, they operated with a sense of optimism, believing that consolidation would translate into operational efficiencies and enhanced market power. Smaller companies, often struggling to compete on their own, were absorbed into the larger entity, bringing with them a diverse array of customers and localized knowledge. Integration efforts focused on streamlining operations and leveraging economies of scale. This period seemed promising, with revenues surging and a newfound prominence in the industry. Investments in infrastructure accompanied this expansion, enhancing service offerings and improving technology. New channels and programming options emerged, appealing to a wider audience. The excitement of this growth masked underlying vulnerabilities as financial pressures began to surface. The rapid accumulation of assets required substantial capital, often leading to increased debt levels. These financial commitments would later prove burdensome, setting the stage for the challenges that lay ahead. Expansion efforts, while initially fruitful, began to sow the seeds of instability within the organization. The leadership of John Regas emerged as a pivotal factor in the trajectory of the company. His vision for the potential of cable television was ambitious, propelling growth and innovation within the organization. This ambition was accompanied by a willingness to embrace risk, which sometimes blurred the lines between strategic investment and imprudent speculation. Regas' approach fostered an environment that prioritized rapid expansion over sustainable practices. The allure of a burgeoning market led to significant capital expenditures, often fueled by aggressive borrowing. This reliance on debt became a double-edged sword, providing immediate resources while simultaneously increasing vulnerability to market fluctuations. The balance between visionary leadership and risky business decisions began to tilt precariously. Financial practices under his direction drew scrutiny as the complexity of operations grew. The intricate web of financial maneuvers designed to mask underlying issues. In this increasingly uncertain landscape, the once strong vision of growth transformed into a potential harbinger of decline. The aggressive tactics that initially propelled it forward now threatened to dismantle the very foundation of what had been built, leaving behind a legacy marked by both ambition and turmoil. Ambitious expansion plans led to a reliance on debt as a primary financial strategy. This reliance transformed into a double-edged sword. The company pursued aggressive acquisitions of cable systems, believing that rapid growth would solidify its market position. Leveraging debt allowed it to expand into new territories and enhance service offerings, projecting a vision of boundless opportunity. This approach, however, came with significant risks. As the debt burden increased, so did the pressure to generate consistent cash flows. Financial statements reflected a precarious balance, with liabilities swelling alongside the promise of lucrative returns. The allure of immediate expansion often overshadowed the need for prudent financial management, creating an environment rife with uncertainty. Investors initially responded favorably to the company's ambitious trajectory, but cracks began to surface as financial realities emerged. The cost of servicing debt became increasingly burdensome, leading to heightened scrutiny from analysts and stakeholders. This strain forced a shift in focus from growth to survival, disrupting the initial vision. In the end, the strategy that once appeared as a pathway to dominance evolved into a precarious balancing act. The weight of the accumulated debt began to overshadow the very ambitions that had driven the company forward, leading to further instability. The once promising future became clouded by financial turmoil, setting the stage for an inevitable reckoning. The emergence of competitive cable markets intensified the challenges facing the fading company. New entrants began to offer innovative services, luring away subscribers eager for improved options. This region saw a gradual erosion of Adelphia's customer base as viewers gravitated towards alternatives that promised better programming and customer service. The shifting landscape made it increasingly difficult for the established entity to maintain its foothold. Pressure mounted as prices became a point of contention. Competitors aggressively undercut subscription fees, creating an environment where loyal consumers began to question the value of their existing packages. This led to a significant decline in revenues, further straining an already precarious financial situation. The once loyal audience, swayed by promotional deals, began to dwindle, leaving the company with excess capacity and mounting operational costs. In response, the fading company attempted to revamp its offerings, investing in technology upgrades and marketing efforts aimed at reclaiming lost ground. However, these initiatives often fell short, hampered by the persistent perception of declining quality among consumers. The ongoing competition, coupled with rising expectations for content and service, rendered the efforts insufficient. In this tense atmosphere, the challenges became insurmountable, highlighting the vulnerabilities inherent in an industry that had once promised unbounded growth. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 introduced a wave of deregulation, creating opportunities for rapid expansion in the telecommunications sector. This legislation aimed to foster competition and encourage new entrants into the marketplace. These intentions initially inspired optimism within the industry, as companies like Adelphia sought to capitalize on the newfound prospects. The promise of increased subscribers and diversified services attracted significant investment, fueling aggressive growth strategies. Amid this optimism, risks began to materialize. With competition intensifying, the pressure to deliver on ambitious growth targets escalated. Companies expanded their services at breakneck speed, often prioritizing market capture over sustainable business practices. The influx of competition led to price wars, which further strained profit margins within the sector. Amid this tumultuous landscape, the fading company ventured into risky financial maneuvers, including extensive borrowing to finance expansion. Such decisions, while designed to position it favorably against competitors. As the industry evolved, these risks became increasingly evident. What had once seemed like a golden opportunity transformed into a treacherous landscape, littered with the remains of those unable to adapt successfully. The fallout from the Telecommunications Act would reverberate through the years, shaping the future of telecommunications in profound and lasting ways. Initial public offerings often serve as pivotal moments for companies, and this was no exception for Adelphia. The company entered the market with hopes of substantial growth, reflecting an optimistic outlook that enticed investors. Shares were priced with a bullish anticipation, climbing steadily in the early days of trading. This enthusiasm, however, was not destined to last. As the months passed, fluctuations began to surface, revealing underlying vulnerabilities. The stock performance mirrored a growing unease among analysts and investors. Earnings reports, initially promising, began to show signs of pressure, raising questions about the sustainability of its business model. In this region of the telecommunications landscape, competitors were rapidly evolving, often outpacing Adelphia in both innovation and service offerings. the one stalwart belief in the company's trajectory started to waver. Investors began to scrutinize financial statements more closely, uncovering discrepancies that hinted at deeper issues within corporate governance. The stock, which had initially symbolized hope, became a harbinger of uncertainty. A steady decline ensued, leading to a significant erosion of market confidence. This downfall was not merely a consequence of market dynamics, but also reflected the unraveling of a corporate ethos that had once promised growth and stability. The journey from ambition to decline lay bare the fragility of corporate aspirations in an unforgiving marketplace. This region witnessed the ambitious expansion of Adelphia into digital services during the late 1990s and early 2000s. The push for broadband was seen as essential for maintaining relevance in an industry undergoing rapid technological transformation. They invested significantly in infrastructure to provide high-speed internet access, believing this new venture would secure their position against competitors. With the promise of enhanced connectivity, the fading company aimed to attract a broader customer base. Initial growth figures suggested success, as subscriber numbers swelled and revenues seemed poised for an upward trajectory. This optimism was underpinned by the belief that digital services would be the backbone of future profitability. However, this venture was not without its complications. Infrastructure challenges and rising operational costs began to compound the difficulties faced. The transition from traditional cable offerings to digital solutions required significant resource allocation, diverting attention from core competencies. As competition intensified, aggressive pricing strategies by rivals further eroded margins. Financial strain became increasingly evident, casting shadows over the once optimistic projections. The ambitious expansion, while initially promising, revealed vulnerabilities that would. The importance of customer service in the cable industry's success cannot be understated. A reliable connection to entertainment and information is essential in this region. Yet it is often the interactions with service representatives that shape customer loyalty. This company, like many of its contemporaries, faced challenges in delivering a consistent and satisfactory customer experience. Complaints regarding billing inaccuracies, service outages, and installation delays became increasingly prevalent. Frustrations communicated through phone calls and online portals highlighted a disconnect between corporate policies and customer expectations. Trained representatives were often overwhelmed, struggling to maintain a level of service that aligned with the growing demands of subscribers. Inadequate responses to these concerns contributed to a decline in trust. Promises made during promotional campaigns fell flat when customers encountered difficulties in accessing the services they had been assured. This erosion of confidence was palpable, as families relied heavily on cable connections for both entertainment and information. Amidst this turmoil, competitors began to offer more streamlined and customer-centric solutions. Alternative providers capitalized on the opportunity to present themselves as more responsive and attentive. The declining company found itself in a precarious position as customers began to seek out these emerging services, effectively diminishing its once dominant market presence and slowly unraveling the fabric of its operations. Financial reporting at this fading company became a focal point of scrutiny amid the increasing pressure from competition. Allegations surfaced regarding questionable accounting practices that suggested a lack of transparency in its financial disclosures. Financial statements, once a source of pride, were now under the watchful eye of regulators and analysts, raising concerns about the integrity of its reported earnings. The company employed a range of accounting techniques that, while not illegal, bordered on the unorthodox. These methods often obscured the true financial health of its operations. Revenue recognition practices were particularly contentious, with instances of income being reported before it was actually earned. Such approaches created an illusion of stability, masking the underlying struggles facing the organization. Investors, once drawn to the allure of growth, began to lose confidence as inconsistencies emerged in the reported figures. Share prices fell, reflecting the pervasive uncertainty about the company's future. Internal audits revealed discrepancies that pointed to a disconnect between management's ambitions and the realities of the market. This erosion of trust contributed to a broader decline, where stakeholders felt the weight of hidden risks. The culmination of these financial missteps not only diminished investor confidence, but also laid bare the vulnerabilities that had been concealed for too long, marking a significant turning point in the history of the cable television provider. The rise of competition introduced a formidable challenge to the fading company, as new players entered the market with innovative alternatives. Direct TV emerged as a prominent force, offering satellite television that promised enhanced viewing experiences and broader channel selections. This shift in consumer preference became evident as households began to gravitate toward the allure of satellite options, drawn by the prospect of clearer signals and expansive programming. In this evolving landscape, traditional cable providers found themselves at a disadvantage, unable to match the flexibility and convenience that satellite services provided. The allure of bundled packages became increasingly attractive, allowing subscribers to access a multitude of channels without the constraints associated with conventional cable subscriptions. This transition highlighted a fundamental change in consumer behavior, as audiences sought value beyond established brand loyalty. Amidst this upheaval, the fading company faced immense pressure to adapt. The inability to pivot quickly undermined its position, as competitors capitalized on the opportunity to capture market share. This region witnessed a notable shift in allegiance, reflecting a broader trend within the telecommunications industry. Years of complacency, coupled with operational inefficiencies, contributed to a growing chasm between the company and its once loyal customer base. The changing tides of competition rendered the challenges insurmountable, leading to an inevitable decline that would reshape the future of cable television. Expansion, often regarded as a cornerstone of growth, became a double-edged sword for the fading company. In an effort to capture a larger market share, it accrued significant debt, driven by ambitious acquisitions and infrastructure investments. This relentless pursuit of growth did not yield the anticipated returns, but instead tethered it to rising financial strain. The burden of debt began to manifest in the form of dwindling cash flow and increased operational costs. This region, once vibrant with activity, now reflected the harsh realities of mismanaged resources and unsustainable financial commitments. Decisions that seemed prudent in the moment transformed into anchors that dragged the company deeper into uncertainty. Corporate strategies became reactive rather than proactive, as leadership struggled to navigate the consequences of their prior choices. Financial forecasts painted a bleak picture, highlighting the widening gap between revenue and obligations. Investors grew wary, their confidence diminishing with each passing quarter. The escalating debt levels strained relationships with lenders, leading to higher interest rates and stringent repayment terms. As these pressures mounted, the once promising future of the company became overshadowed by a stark reality. The weight of financial collapse loomed ever larger, reflecting a systemic failure to reconcile ambition with fiscal responsibility. In the end, the cost of expansion proved to be far greater than the anticipated benefits. Corporate governance at this fading company became increasingly scrutinized as financial irregularities surfaced. The board, entrusted with oversight, grappled with the complexities of managing a rapidly expanding enterprise while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Members were expected to navigate the intricate landscape of regulatory compliance, yet a profound disconnect emerged between ambition and accountability. Oversight responsibilities diminished as the company's leadership pushed for aggressive growth strategies. The board's role became more symbolic, overshadowed by a culture that prioritized immediate gains over long-term stability. This environment fostered risk-taking behaviors that went unchecked, as the potential consequences of their lax governance were not fully appreciated. Amidst the turmoil, internal controls faltered, leading to a cascade of questionable financial practices. The board's inability to recognize the warning signs reflected a systemic failure in the governance framework. This oversight vacuum allowed management to operate with minimal scrutiny. In the wake of revelations surrounding fraudulent accounting practices, public trust eroded rapidly. Stakeholders, once confident in the board's stewardship, began to question the integrity of the entire organization. The ramifications of these decisions extended beyond financial loss, marking a significant turning point in corporate governance standards within the industry. Thus, the decline of this once prominent entity served as a cautionary tale for future governance practices. The Riga's family wielded significant influence over corporate culture, embedding their values deeply within the organization. Their involvement extended beyond mere ownership. It shaped the very ethos that guided operational decisions and strategic direction. This familial presence fostered a unique atmosphere, one where loyalty and personal relationships often took precedence over professional merit. The close-knit nature of the family created an environment that discouraged dissent. Employees frequently felt the pressure to conform to the prevailing familial expectations, which prioritized personal allegiance over accountability. This dynamic contributed to a lack of transparency, as critical financial decisions were often shrouded in secrecy, shielded from scrutiny by layers of trust and familiarity. Amidst this backdrop, the company pursued aggressive expansion strategies, often marked by ambitious acquisitions that escalated its financial exposure. The Riga's family's vision, while initially promising, veered into imprudent territory as it became increasingly detached from industry realities. Such strategies compromised the integrity of the organization, leading to fiscal mismanagement and eventual scrutiny from regulators. The interplay between familial loyalty and corporate governance exemplified a disconnect between ambition and ethical responsibility. As troubling revelations emerged, the once cherished family legacy became entwined with the unraveling of their enterprise, casting a long shadow over the memories of past successes. The corporate culture, once a source of identity, transformed into a harbinger of decline. Investigating allegations of fraud, early warning signs emerged within the organization, sending ripples of unease through its corridors. Financial discrepancies began to surface, initially dismissed as minor errors. These inconsistencies, however, hinted at a deeper malaise that threatened the very foundation of the establishment. Various audits uncovered alarming patterns in accounting practices, revealing a manipulation of figures that obscured the true financial state. Whispers of internal strife circulated among employees, suggesting a disconnect between leadership and the workforce. This dissonance often serves as a precursor to larger issues, with morale dwindling and trust eroding. The burgeoning culture of secrecy fostered an environment where questions remained unasked, shrouding the company in a veil of uncertainty. External analysts began to scrutinize the organization more closely. Reports highlighted the growing gap between actual performance and reported earnings, raising eyebrows in the financial community. Observers noted that the once vibrant corporate image was now marred by shadows of doubt, as stakeholders grappled with the implications of these revelations. In this region of fiscal turmoil, the reality of the situation became increasingly evident. The looming specter of fraud was no longer just a possibility. It had become an unsettling presence, threatening to engulf the fading company in a cycle of mistrust and despair. The financial reports became a source of scrutiny, drawing the attention of regulators and investors alike. Discrepancies in revenue recognition practices emerged, raising questions about the integrity of the figures presented to the public. With mounting pressure, it became evident that these accounting issues were not mere oversights, but rather symptoms of deeper systemic problems within the organization. The internal culture, once vibrant and ambitious, began to crumble under the weight of uncertainty and fear. This region, once known for its innovative approach to cable television, saw a swift transformation into a hotbed of controversy. The revelations of inflated subscriber counts and deceptive financial practices sparked a firestorm of legal challenges. Shareholder confidence eroded rapidly, and the once loyal customer base began to dwindle as trust dissipated. Management's attempts to reassure stakeholders fell flat. Empty promises did little to quell the rising tide of skepticism. While the ramifications of the accounting issues were felt across the organization, the broader impact started to manifest. Partners and vendors, once willing to collaborate, took a step back, reassessing the viability of their relationships. The atmosphere thickened with tension as the specter of insolvency loomed ever closer. The company, once a pillar of the community, was now caught in a downward spiral, marking the beginning of the end. The impending investigations cast a long shadow over the fading company, signaling a crucial turning point. Regulatory scrutiny began to reveal deep-seated financial discrepancies, with the Securities and Exchange Commission uncovering irregular accounting practices. These revelations transformed the landscape of operations, instilling a pervasive sense of uncertainty within the organization. Leadership faced mounting pressure as the investigation unfolded. Questions regarding ethical governance emerged, complicating relationships with shareholders and the public. The implications reached far beyond mere numbers, extending into the core values that once defined it. Stakeholder trust eroded rapidly, leaving a void that was increasingly difficult to fill. As investigations progressed, the company's financial reports faced intense examination. Analysts dissected each document, searching for signs of mismanagement and malfeasance. The mood among employees shifted. Anxiety replaced the camaraderie that had once characterized the workplace. Rumors circulated, creating an atmosphere laden with trepidation. Communication strategies faltered as leadership struggled to maintain transparency amidst the chaos. Each announcement seemed to evoke further skepticism, highlighting the disconnect between the company's narrative and the reality unfolding. The once revered brand, now synonymous with scandal, found itself grappling with an identity in crisis. This erosion of reputation underscored the profound consequences of regulatory scrutiny, marking a decisive chapter in its decline. The broader context surrounding corporate governance became increasingly relevant as the collapse of Enron sent shockwaves throughout the financial world. This failure illuminated the vulnerabilities within corporate structures, exposing deceptive practices that had thrived in the shadows. It prompted a heightened awareness of accountability, ethics, and transparency, themes that permeated the corporate landscape during that period. In this environment, the public's trust in businesses waned, particularly for companies like this one, which found themselves under intense scrutiny. This scrutiny, combined with the fallout from Enron's demise, created a climate where even slight missteps could lead to catastrophic consequences. Stakeholders became wary, and investor confidence diminished rapidly, compounding the challenges faced by struggling enterprises. The repercussions echoed throughout the cable television industry, where this company operated. Competition intensified as rivals seized the opportunity to capture market share amidst growing skepticism of established players. The financial strategies that had once propelled growth became liabilities, revealing a tangled web of debt and mismanagement. This decline was not merely a story of one failing organization. It reflected a systemic issue, a cautionary tale of a broader culture where ambition occasionally overshadowed integrity. The landscape shifted, and the implications of these failures were felt far beyond the confines of this fading company. Trust, once a cornerstone of the industry, had eroded significantly. The decline accelerated in the spring of 2002 when the company, facing insurmountable debt and accusations of fraud, initiated its bankruptcy proceedings. This decision was not made lightly. Rather, it was the result of a series of missteps and miscalculations that had unfolded over several years. By April of that year, increasing scrutiny from regulators and a plummet in subscriber growth forced the hand of the management. In May, the filing became official, revealing liabilities exceeding $28 billion. The fallout prompted immediate reactions from stakeholders, investors, and the public. Questions surrounding financial practices and corporate governance intensified, casting a long shadow over the organization. This region of the cable industry, once vibrant and lucrative, now appeared fraught with uncertainty. Throughout the summer months, various creditors lined up to claim their share of the diminishing assets. It became apparent that the company had overextended itself, driven by aggressive expansion strategies that, as the autumn approached, efforts to emerge from bankruptcy were met with skepticism. The once promising future of the cable television company dimmed, leaving behind a legacy marked by ambition, failure, and a cautionary tale for the industry at large. The emergence of the dot-com bubble significantly altered the landscape for many companies, including this cable television provider. A surge of investment in technology and digital media created an environment of inflated expectations. The rapid rise and subsequent fall of internet stocks reverberated across various sectors, prompting a reevaluation of traditional business models. This shift brought a new level of competition for viewers' attention and advertising dollars. Adelphia found itself in an increasingly precarious position. The allure of digital content drew consumers away from conventional cable offerings, impacting subscriber growth. As online platforms began to emerge, they not only attracted audiences, but also siphoned away advertising revenues. This transition highlighted the limitations of the existing framework, exposing vulnerabilities within its operations. Financial mismanagement further compounded the issues. As the company struggled to adapt, it became evident that existing debt levels were unsustainable. A series of accounting scandals revealed a troubling lack of transparency, which only accelerated the decline. The fallout from these revelations led to a loss of trust among investors and customers alike. In this shifting landscape, the once esteemed cable provider became emblematic of a broader trend, a harbinger of the challenges traditional media faced in an era defined by rapid technological advancement and changing consumer preferences. The collapse serves as a stark reminder of the fragility inherent in corporate ambition. Financial restatements emerged as a significant aspect of this decline, underscoring the discrepancies that plagued the company's reported earnings. They revealed a troubling narrative, as management acknowledged that prior financial statements had been misleading. This admission not only eroded investor confidence, but also cast a long shadow over the credibility of its leadership and operational practices. Earnings reports, once touted as indicators of robust growth, had become instruments of disillusionment. Initially celebrated for impressive revenue figures, the subsequent revelations painted a different picture, one of inflated profits and manipulated accounts. This region of misrepresentation led to heightened scrutiny from regulatory bodies, further complicating the company's already precarious position. The impacts were profound, extending beyond immediate financial losses. Stakeholders faced disillusionment as trust eroded amidst a backdrop of financial turbulence. Employees, once buoyed by a sense of stability, began to grapple with uncertainty, their roles increasingly threatened by the company's faltering reputation. Investors withdrew, driven by fear and skepticism, leading to a sharp decline in stock prices. Consequently, the ongoing restatements became emblematic of broader systemic issues within the organization. The foundational principles of transparency and accountability seemed compromised, leaving a legacy of caution for future corporate endeavors and underscoring the critical importance of integrity in financial reporting. Internal pressures within the fading company created an environment that stifled dissent. Employees, aware of the growing discrepancies, faced significant challenges when contemplating the act of speaking out. Fear of retaliation loomed large, and loyalty to the organization often outweighed moral considerations. In this atmosphere, the role of whistleblowers became pivotal. Individuals who chose to expose misconduct often faced isolation and skepticism from colleagues who remained silent. Their revelations, though crucial, were frequently met with resistance, further complicating the pursuit of accountability. External pressures also contributed to the unfolding narrative. Investigative journalists and regulatory bodies began to scrutinize the company's practices. These outside influences acted as catalysts, pushing internal whistleblowers to come forward. The juxtaposition of internal fear and external inquiry created a complex dynamic, highlighting the challenges of corporate governance. Information that emerged from these brave individuals shed light on questionable financial maneuvers, revealing the depths of ethical erosion. Despite the risks, those who chose to expose the malfeasance played a critical role in unraveling the intricate web of deceit. Their actions not only provided a clearer understanding of the company's failures, but also served as cautionary tales for other organizations. This dual pressure, internally from concerned employees and externally from vigilant watchdogs, underscored the significance of integrity in corporate culture. The aftermath of the bankruptcy filing revealed stark reactions from various stakeholders. Employees, once proud to be associated with a thriving entity, experienced a profound sense of betrayal and uncertainty. Many had devoted years to a company that swiftly unraveled. As news spread, rumors circulated about potential layoffs and diminished benefits, casting a shadow over the workforce. This turmoil created an atmosphere rife with anxiety as individuals confronted an unpredictable future. Investors faced a stark reality, grappling with the implications of their investments. What had once been a promising venture was now steeped in financial chaos. The loss of confidence reverberated through the market as shareholders reevaluated their portfolios. Many sought answers, questioning the decisions made by executives who had seemingly prioritized personal gain over corporate health. Consumers, too, were affected by the fallout. Services relied upon became inconsistent, leading to frustration and dissatisfaction. Loyalty waned as competitors seized the opportunity to attract disillusioned customers. This shift in sentiment further compounded the decline, as the once stalwart brand struggled to maintain relevance in a crowded landscape. Regulatory bodies scrutinized the situation, analyzing the circumstances that led to such a dramatic collapse. Investigations into the company's practices aimed to ensure accountability and prevent similar failures within the industry. The echoes of this decline lingered, a reminder of the fragile nature of corporate existence. Revenue generation for the fading company primarily relied on subscriptions to its cable television services. This approach created a steady influx of income as households in various regions turned to Adelphia for entertainment and information. Bundled packages offered both basic and premium channels, catering to diverse audience preferences and maximizing subscriber engagement. Advertising revenue was another substantial source, with local businesses and national advertisers seeking space within the company's programming. These partnerships aimed to enhance visibility in a competitive market, yet this strategy began to falter as audiences gravitated towards digital alternatives. The gradual erosion of traditional television viewership slowly undermined this revenue stream. Additional income derived from telecommunications services introduced by the company sought to diversify its offerings. High-speed internet and digital phone services were integrated into the portfolio, aiming to capture a more extensive customer base. While initially promising, the rapid technological advancements and competition from other providers rendered these efforts inadequate over time. As financial reporting became increasingly scrutinized, irregularities within the company's accounting practices emerged, further compounding the challenges faced. Trust eroded among stakeholders, and the once reliable revenue streams were overshadowed by mounting debt and declining subscriber numbers. This intricate web of financial mismanagement and changing market dynamics culminated in significant layoffs, leaving thousands without employment. Following bankruptcy, the once thriving workforce was reduced to mere remnants of its former self. This region, once pulsating with the energy of innovation and collaboration, now echoed with the silence of lost opportunities. Employees, once committed to the vision of the company, faced uncertainty and despair as their livelihoods evaporated. In the aftermath, the impact on the local economy became increasingly evident. Families grappled with the sudden loss of income, leading to a ripple effect that strained community resources. The once vibrant neighborhoods surrounding the company's headquarters began to show signs of decline, storefronts shuttered, and social services overwhelmed. Job fairs, once a source of hope, became haunting reminders of the dramatic shift in fortune. Survivors of the layoffs often found themselves in positions that were less secure and far removed from their previous roles. Many sought retraining and new opportunities, navigating a job market that had changed drastically. The legacy of the company lingered as former employees recounted their experiences, sharing stories of camaraderie and ambition that were. The sale of assets marked a pivotal moment in the decline of the fading company. This region, once vibrant with innovation and growth, now witnessed the dismantling of a once thriving enterprise. Key segments of the business were liquidated to settle mounting debts and restore financial stability. The decision to part with valuable properties, including regional offices and service areas, was driven by an urgent need for cash flow. Television assets, including cable infrastructure and subscriber bases, were sold off to competitors eager to expand their market reach. These transactions reflected a grim reality. The infrastructure that once connected communities became a liability rather than an asset. Equipment, such as advanced broadcasting technology and software systems, was auctioned, often at a fraction of its original value. The urgency of the liquidation process revealed the depths of financial strife. Investor confidence eroded further as it became evident that the company could not sustain its operations without strategic divestitures. Employees faced uncertainty as they watched their workplaces being stripped of resources and potential. The emotional weight of these sales was palpable as former employees grappled with the loss of their contributions to a once prominent entity. Each sale represented not only a financial transaction, but also the fading echoes of ambition and community connection that had defined the company. The Rigas family's legal troubles unfolded as a slow unraveling of trust and integrity. Allegations surfaced regarding fraudulent accounting practices that obscured the true financial state of the company. These deceptive actions not only misled investors, but also weakened the foundation upon which the enterprise was built. With each revelation, a shadow loomed larger over the once thriving cable television company. Federal prosecutors meticulously constructed a case that highlighted the depth of the family's involvement in these financial misdeeds. They detailed how inflated subscriber numbers and manipulated earnings reports created an illusion of prosperity. The consequences of such misrepresentation extended far beyond financial loss. They shattered the reputation that had been painstakingly cultivated over decades. As the legal proceedings advanced, the Rigas family faced mounting pressure. The courtroom became a stage for the unfolding drama, where the stakes were not merely personal, but extended to the livelihoods of employees and the trust of countless subscribers. Convictions were handed down, and the verdicts echoed throughout the industry, serving as a stark reminder of the fragility of corporate integrity. In the aftermath, the company's values lay in ruins, and the community that once rallied around its successes turned away, leaving a void where connection and ambition had once thrived. The decline was not merely a financial failure, it marked the end of an era. The repercussions of this decline extended deeply into local communities. Many households relied on Adelphia for their access to information and entertainment. With the company's downfall, an essential service vanished, leaving a void in connectivity. This region witnessed a significant shift in its media landscape, as residents suddenly faced limited options for cable service. The absence of reliable programming impacted not only leisure activities, but also community engagement, as local channels that highlighted regional events and news disappeared. Economic ramifications were also profound. Employees found themselves without jobs, contributing to rising unemployment rates. Local businesses that depended on advertising revenue from Adelphia struggled to stay afloat. The loss of partnership opportunities stifled growth and weakened community ties, as these enterprises sought alternative means to reach their audience. This decline in service was felt most acutely in lower-income neighborhoods, where access to alternative options was often restricted. The digital divide widened, leaving these residents increasingly isolated in a rapidly evolving technological landscape. Community events that once thrived on shared experiences through this platform dwindled, diminishing the quality of life for many. The once vibrant presence of Adelphia, a cornerstone of local identity and economic activity, now lay in ruins, serving as a somber reminder of the fragile nature of corporate stability and its profound effects on everyday lives. Infrastructure issues played a critical role in the decline of Adelphia. As advancements in technology emerged, the company struggled to keep pace. Investments in outdated systems and equipment led to service interruptions and customer dissatisfaction. Over time, this lag in technological adaptation became increasingly evident. The once robust network faltered, unable to support the growing demands for high-definition content and reliable connectivity. In this region, competitors capitalized on the deficiencies, offering faster, more reliable service. Their superior technological frameworks highlighted the shortcomings of Adelphia's aging infrastructure. Customers began to migrate, drawn by the promise of innovation and quality. The gradual erosion of its subscriber base compounded the challenges, resulting in diminished revenues. It became increasingly difficult for Adelphia to justify the necessary capital expenditures to modernize its systems. The internal struggle to allocate resources effectively further exacerbated the situation. Managers faced mounting pressure to balance operational costs while attempting to invest in improvements. As the infrastructure aged, maintenance costs surged, consuming funds that could have been directed toward strategic upgrades. The continuous cycle of underinvestment and technological stagnation left it vulnerable to market shifts. In the quiet aftermath, the remnants of its once reliable infrastructure serve as a testament to a company that could not adapt to the relentless march of progress. The shadows of mismanagement loom large over the fading company, highlighting the ethical lapses that punctuated its decline. Executives indulged in a culture of opacity, prioritizing personal interests over shareholder viability. This disregard for basic corporate governance eroded trust, setting a precarious precedent in the industry. Financial misrepresentations were not mere anomalies, but rather indicative of a systemic failure to uphold transparency. In this region, the consequences of such ethical breaches reverberated beyond immediate stakeholders. Employees faced uncertainty as the company spiraled, their loyalty tested by a leadership that seemed detached from reality. The community, once buoyed by the promise of job security and reliable service, witnessed a gradual deterioration of support. It became increasingly clear that a lack of accountability had dire ramifications, not only for the company, but also for the larger economic ecosystem. As investigations unfolded, the extent of the financial malfeasance revealed a troubling disregard for the fiduciary responsibilities owed to investors. It became evident that a pursuit of short-term gains overshadowed the fundamental principles of ethical behavior and long-term sustainability. The lessons learned from this corporate failure serve as a cautionary tale, emphasizing the critical need for integrity and oversight in governance. The echoes of Adelphia's downfall linger, reminding future leaders of the paramount importance of ethical conduct in business. The loss of subscriber trust marked a profound shift in this region's cable television landscape. With the unraveling of financial stability, customers grew increasingly skeptical of the promises made by the fading company. Long-standing relationships, once built on reliability and service, now lay in tatters. These sentiments permeated the community, leaving a void that would prove challenging to fill. Rebuilding these relationships post-bankruptcy required a strategic approach. Initiatives aimed at transparency became paramount. Communication efforts focused on acknowledging past missteps, with former executives emphasizing a commitment to ethical business practices. The objective was to reassure customers that they could depend on the integrity of their service provider once again. In parallel, the introduction of new service packages sought to address evolving consumer needs. Enhanced offerings, combined with competitive pricing, aimed to regain some semblance of loyalty among disillusioned subscribers. These efforts unfolded against a backdrop of shifting market dynamics, where competition intensified and alternatives proliferated. Gradually, some customers began to return, recognizing the efforts made to restore trust. Yet, the journey remained fraught with challenges. Each step taken was a reminder of the delicate balance between business operations and ethical considerations. The path to recovery was long and arduous, underscoring the intricate relationship between corporate accountability and consumer confidence in this ever-changing industry. Competitors recognized the vulnerabilities present within the fading company. Rivals began to capitalize on the disarray, strategically expanding their market share in this region. With Adelphia embroiled in legal battles and financial turmoil, these entities saw an opportunity to attract disillusioned customers seeking reliable service. They implemented aggressive marketing campaigns, promising enhanced connectivity and superior customer support, effectively poaching a once loyal client base. The competitive landscape transformed, with some companies investing heavily in technology to offer advanced features that appealed to modern consumers. Enhanced digital offerings and bundled services became key selling points. As Adelphia struggled to maintain its infrastructure, these rivals positioned themselves as the forward-thinking alternatives, appealing to the desires of an increasingly sophisticated audience. This shift not only eroded Adelphia's subscriber numbers, but also diminished its brand prestige. The once familiar logo became emblematic of uncertainty, prompting former customers to seek assurance and stability elsewhere. The contrast between the successful maneuvers of competitors and the stagnation of the fading company highlighted the critical nature of adaptability in the industry. In this climate, the stakes escalated. Rapid advancements in technology and customer expectations set a new benchmark, one that the beleaguered entity could not meet. Companies that had previously struggled now flourished, further entrenching their positions as the remnants of Adelphia faded into obscurity. Consumer preferences underwent a significant transformation as the years progressed. The rise of the internet introduced new forms of entertainment and communication that fundamentally altered viewing habits. Traditional cable television, once a staple in households, began to experience a decline in viewership. Streaming services emerged, offering a vast array of content on demand, catering to diverse tastes and lifestyles. This shift in consumption patterns contributed to the erosion of cable's once dominant market share. The allure of flexibility and convenience became paramount. Viewers sought the ability to choose what, when, and how they watched, a stark contrast to the rigid schedules imposed by cable programming. This evolving landscape prompted many to cancel their subscriptions, increasingly opting for alternative platforms. The gradual disengagement from traditional cable led to a reevaluation of value versus cost, which further strained companies like Adelphia. Technological advancements played a critical role in this transformation. High-speed internet became more widely accessible, enabling seamless streaming experiences. As viewers embraced these advancements, the traditional model struggled to compete. The once reliable revenue streams from advertising and subscription fees began to dwindle, leaving remnants of former giants grappling with an identity crisis. In this changing environment, the business strategies of many legacy companies proved insufficient to address shifting consumer desires. The regulatory landscape for cable companies underwent significant transformation following the decline of Adelphia. With the exposure of financial malfeasance and the subsequent bankruptcy, scrutiny intensified. Regulatory bodies, once more lenient, began imposing stricter guidelines to ensure transparency and accountability. This shift aimed to restore public confidence in the industry, which had suffered from reputational damage. In this evolving regulatory environment, compliance became paramount. Companies found themselves navigating an intricate web of rules, necessitating substantial investments in governance and oversight mechanisms. The burden of regulatory compliance, while intended to safeguard consumers and investors, added to the operational challenges already faced by many cable providers. Amidst these changes, competition from emerging technologies altered the dynamics further. Streaming services, unencumbered by the same regulatory constraints, began to capture significant market share. This shift compelled traditional providers to reevaluate their business models. In response, many companies sought partnerships with technology firms, adapting to the new landscape. The regulatory environment, combined with the rise of digital alternatives, pressured cable companies to innovate or risk obsolescence. This region, once dominated by traditional cable offerings, now bears witness to a gradual erosion of legacy systems. As newer platforms gain traction, the remnants of the past linger, marked by the lessons learned from the decline of entities like Adelphia. Corporate governance flaws are often illuminated through the lens of failures such as that of Adelphia. This cable television company, once a significant player in the industry, serves as a critical case study in understanding the pitfalls of governance structures, the failure to maintain transparency and accountability. Management's decisions, compounded by a lack of oversight, fostered an environment rife with unethical practices. This resulted in a staggering debt that eclipsed $1 billion. Such financial mismanagement raises essential questions about the effectiveness of board oversight in publicly traded companies. The absence of rigorous checks and balances allowed for the manipulation of financial statements, which misled investors and stakeholders alike. These actions not only eroded trust, but also set a precedent for regulatory scrutiny in the industry. In this region of corporate history, the unraveling of Adelphia underscores the vital importance of ethical governance. The consequences of inadequate oversight continue to reverberate through the landscape of corporate America. Lessons learned from these events emphasize the necessity for robust corporate governance frameworks. It is evident that the path to sustainability lies in transparency, integrity, and a commitment to ethical practices within the corporate structure. The Fading Company stands as a reminder that vigilance is paramount in the pursuit of long-term success. The intersection of family business and corporate governance challenges often reveals inherent complexities. In this case, familial ties intertwined with corporate ambitions, creating a unique but precarious structure. The leadership, composed of family members, frequently prioritized personal relationships over sound business practice. This dynamic cultivated an environment where accountability was diminished, leading to poor decision-making that would. In this region, the absence of independent oversight allowed for an alarming lack of transparency. Financial mismanagement became evident as trust eroded among stakeholders. The familial influence stifled dissenting voices, which might have otherwise offered alternative perspectives on strategic direction. The reliance on a single family for governance facilitated a culture resistant to external scrutiny, further compounding its vulnerabilities. As the company's financial reality deteriorated, the consequences of these governance failures became starkly apparent. The interplay between familial loyalty and corporate responsibility created an atmosphere ripe for ethical breaches. Such a situation is not uncommon in the landscape of family-run enterprises, where the personal and professional often blur. The impact of these challenges extends beyond mere financial losses. The legacy of the company now serves as a cautionary tale. It highlights the importance of robust governance structures, ensuring that familial connections do not overshadow the essential principles of corporate accountability and integrity. The management of public relations during corporate crises becomes critical in shaping perceptions of a declining entity. In the case of Adelphia, the revelations surrounding accounting irregularities marked a pivotal moment where communication strategies were scrutinized. It was not merely the financial mismanagement that captured attention. Rather, it was the subsequent efforts to mitigate reputational damage that unfolded. Initial responses from leadership attempted to downplay the severity of the situation. Statements issued aimed to reassure investors and customers alike, emphasizing stability and ongoing commitment to service. As the reality of the crisis deepened, these assurances began to ring hollow. The disconnect between corporate messaging and the unfolding narrative led to growing skepticism among stakeholders. As events progressed, the role of public relations shifted. Strategies became reactive, focused on damage control rather than proactive engagement. Media coverage intensified, dissecting every facet of the company's operations and leadership decisions. This region became a focal point for investigative journalism, revealing not only the financial mishaps, but also the pervasive culture of mismanagement. Analyzing the financial statements provides insight into the gradual decline of the Fading Company. Prior to bankruptcy, key ratios such as the debt-to-equity ratio indicated a troubling reliance on borrowed capital. a figure surpassing 3 prompted concern among analysts. The return on equity, once a robust 15%, declined sharply, signaling diminished profitability and investor confidence. Post-bankruptcy, these ratios revealed a stark transformation. The debt-to-equity ratio, while seemingly improved due to the restructuring processes, masked deeper issues. Remaining liabilities still loomed large over any semblance of recovery. The return on equity, now negative, illustrated not just a loss of profitability, but the erosion of trust among stakeholders. Liquidity ratios, such as the current ratio and quick ratio, also shifted dramatically. Pre-bankruptcy, a current ratio hovering around 1.5 suggested a buffer against immediate financial obligations. Following the reorganization, the quick ratio fell to precarious levels, indicating insufficient liquid assets to cover short-term liabilities. The trend of declining revenue further compounded these challenges. Sales figures that once achieved consistent growth now showed erratic fluctuations, reflecting a dwindling customer base and increased competition. Each number in these financial statements told the story of a once prominent entity struggling to maintain its footing in a rapidly evolving market landscape. The media played a pivotal role in illuminating the circumstances surrounding this decline. Articles began to surface, dissecting the complexities of financial mismanagement and corporate governance that plagued the company. The once favorable press transformed into a relentless scrutiny, focusing on the missteps of leadership and questionable accounting practices. Journalists diligently unearthed evidence of deceptive operations, revealing how inflated subscriber numbers masked the underlying fragility. Coverage expanded beyond the financial pages, permeating mainstream news outlets, where the narrative of betrayal resonated with the public. The story of a family-run business, once a pillar of community connection, now became a cautionary tale of greed and ambition. Investigative reports exposed the intricate web of debts and obligations, drawing attention to the internal conflicts that had festered for years. As the company's stock price plummeted, the media's portrayal further influenced public perception, contributing to a growing apprehension among investors and consumers alike. Advertising campaigns that once celebrated the brand's innovation faded into obscurity, with the focus shifting to the alarming announcements of bankruptcy and federal investigations. In this environment, the once vibrant culture of Adelphia withered, overshadowed by a relentless tide of negative press. The narrative shifted from growth and expansion to one of vulnerability and collapse. The evolution of regulations surrounding the cable industry provided a backdrop to the struggles faced by many companies, including Adelphia. Initially, the industry experienced minimal oversight, allowing rapid growth and innovation. This unregulated environment fostered competition, encouraging companies to expand services and reach. The absence of stringent regulations led to an era characterized by aggressive marketing strategies and elaborate service bundles. As time progressed, the consequences of this deregulation became evident. Companies began to engage in practices that prioritized short-term gains over long-term stability. The introduction of legislation aimed at increasing transparency and accountability marked a turning point. This shift sought to protect consumers from deceptive practices that had emerged within a largely uncontrolled environment. In response to growing concerns, regulatory bodies implemented measures that aimed to ensure fair pricing and service quality. These changes affected not only existing companies, but also potential entrants into the market. For many, it was a lesson in the importance of maintaining ethical standards amid fierce competition. The regulatory landscape continued to evolve, adapting to technological advancements and consumer demands. This maturation process brought to light the crucial role transparency plays in corporate financial practices. A lack of clarity and openness can lead to misunderstandings and mismanagement, as evidenced by the rise and fall of various companies in the cable television industry. Financial discrepancies often remain hidden beneath layers of complex accounting and reporting techniques, obscuring a company's true health from stakeholders. Adelphia's situation serves as a poignant reminder of the consequences that can arise when transparency is compromised. A culture of concealment flourished, fostering an environment ripe for deception and manipulation. As financial statements became increasingly difficult to decipher, trust eroded among investors and regulators alike. The absence of straightforward communication led to a cascade of doubts and suspicions that would. In this climate, the repercussions were not limited to the corporate realm. Employees, customers, and the broader community felt the effects of this opacity. With each passing day, the uncertainty surrounding financial practices compounded, culminating in a devastating collapse. The once prominent presence in the cable industry faded into obscurity, leaving behind a landscape littered with unanswered questions and broken promises. The story of this fading company emphasizes the need for integrity in financial reporting and the vigilant maintenance of public trust. Only through clarity can a corporation hope to endure the inevitable challenges of a competitive market. The emergence of streaming services transformed the landscape of media consumption, marking a critical juncture for traditional cable companies. This shift fundamentally altered viewer preferences, as audiences gravitated towards on-demand content and subscription models. The allure of flexibility and variety offered by streaming platforms created a stark contrast to the rigid programming schedules of established providers. Adelphia, like many of its contemporaries, faced mounting pressure to adapt to these changing dynamics. The decline in subscriber numbers reflected a broader trend, where consumers began to question the value of bundled cable packages. Increasingly, they sought alternatives that promised greater control over their viewing experiences. Costs associated with maintaining expansive cable infrastructure became burdensome as revenues dipped. This region, once thriving with cable installations, saw significant contractions. The company struggled to pivot, unable to embrace the digital transformation that sought to redefine entertainment consumption. Competition intensified, with streaming giants proliferating and capturing significant market share. Investment in original programming and user-friendly interfaces became a priority for those who survived the initial shockwaves of disruption. The fading company found itself at a crossroads, caught between legacy operations and an ever-evolving digital frontier. In this landscape, the implications were clear. Without innovation and responsiveness, the traditional cable model risked obsolescence. Post-bankruptcy, a significant shift occurred regarding the remnants of Adelphia's once prominent presence. The rebranding process for the remaining assets began slowly, marked by cautious optimism tempered by the weight of the previous failures. This region, once bustling with the energy of a thriving cable enterprise, now bore the weight of its past. New ownership sought to reshape the identity of what remained. The focus shifted to consolidating services and modernizing infrastructure, aiming to attract customers who had long since turned away. Efforts concentrated on enhancing broadband offerings, pivoting towards digital streaming solutions. The intention was to create a more relevant image amidst a rapidly evolving technological landscape. Marketing strategies were recalibrated to emphasize reliability and customer service, distancing the company from its troubled history. Promotional campaigns highlighted new partnerships and service bundles designed to appeal to a diverse demographic. Yet, the lingering specter of bankruptcy persisted, casting shadows over any newly minted branding. The once proud name, now associated with mismanagement and scandal, became a challenge in itself. Existing customers remained skeptical, and potential clients exhibited hesitance towards engaging with a brand that had experienced such a dramatic fall. The task of redefining the company's narrative was complicated by these entrenched perceptions, creating an uphill battle for the newly restructured entity. The legacy of Adelphia looms large in the landscape of modern cable business practices. The collapse of this once prominent entity exposed vulnerabilities that many had overlooked. It served as a cautionary tale, highlighting the consequences of unchecked expansion and poor financial oversight. This region witnessed a shift in how companies approached their growth strategies, emphasizing the importance of transparency and ethical governance. Lessons gleaned from Adelphia's downfall encouraged a reevaluation of corporate practices across the sector. The emphasis on due diligence became paramount, as stakeholders recognized the significance of scrutinizing financial reporting and corporate conduct. Executives now prioritize clear communication with investors, aiming to cultivate trust and avert the pitfalls that plagued the fading company. Regulatory bodies also took note, implementing stricter guidelines to safeguard against similar crises. These measures fostered an environment where accountability reigned, significantly influencing investor relations and corporate culture in the industry. The reverberations of these changes extended beyond the confines of cable, prompting shifts in broader media and telecommunications sectors. The impact of this decline can be observed in contemporary practices, where the emphasis on sustainability and ethical responsibility shapes decision-making processes. As the remnants of Adelphia fade, its influence remains, serving as a silent guardian against the perils of hubris within corporate frameworks. The delicate relationship between investors and corporate leadership grew increasingly strained during the decline of this cable television company. Trust, once a cornerstone of its operations, began to dissolve as financial irregularities surfaced. A stark sense of uncertainty permeated the boardroom, where once steadfast convictions crumbled under the weight of scandal. Investors, initially drawn by the company's promising growth and innovative offerings, faced a disheartening revelation. The reality of mismanagement and deceptive accounting practices gnawed at their confidence. This erosion of trust manifested in plummeting stock prices and a palpable apprehension regarding future stability. Corporate leadership, once heralded as visionary, found itself ensnared in a web of accountability. Decisions were scrutinized, and the vision that once inspired loyalty became a distant memory. In this climate, investors grew wary of placing their capital into an organization that had betrayed its foundational promises. As the situation deteriorated, the ripple effects were profound. Shareholders, once eager participants in the company's journey, became increasingly disengaged. The loss of confidence translated into a reluctance to invest further resources, which only accelerated the decline. It became evident that the fragile balance of trust was not merely a byproduct of financial performance, but a vital element of corporate resilience. Through this lens, the fate of Adelphia reflects the intricate dynamics between investors and leadership in maintaining a company's integrity. The decline of Adelphia had profound implications for its employees, affecting morale and the overall culture within the organization. A once thriving atmosphere, characterized by a shared vision and collaborative spirit, began to evaporate amid the turmoil. As financial troubles mounted, uncertainty seeped into daily operations, casting a shadow over the workforce. This shift resulted in a palpable sense of anxiety among employees, who found themselves grappling with the fear of job loss and the prospect of an uncertain future. Discontent grew as leadership's decisions became increasingly scrutinized. Trust eroded, leaving behind a fragmented environment where communication faltered. Employees who once felt secure in their roles began to question the integrity of their leadership, further contributing to a decline in collective motivation. The previously vibrant company culture, which thrived on innovation and teamwork, was replaced by an atmosphere of caution and self-preservation. As the situation deteriorated, talented individuals sought opportunities elsewhere, seeking stability in more secure environments. The attrition of skilled personnel led to a talent vacuum, further debilitating the organization. Remaining employees often felt overburdened, forced to carry the weight of their colleagues' departures. The remnants of Adelphia's once robust workforce were left navigating the challenges of a fading enterprise that no longer reflected the aspirations and values that initially attracted them to this region. Rivals in the cable television sector observed the unfolding situation with keen interest, identifying opportunities that had emerged from the missteps of Adelphia. Competitors adapted their strategies, capitalizing on the gaps left in customer service and technological innovation. These companies seized the moment to enhance their own offerings, often simplifying their pricing models to attract former Adelphia subscribers. Innovation became a focal point in their approach. High-speed internet and streaming options were introduced, catering to a digital audience that sought more than traditional cable packages. This region saw new players emerge, each promising better service and reliability, with marketing campaigns highlighting their advantages over a struggling Adelphia. As these competitors flourished, they invested heavily in infrastructure, ensuring that service interruptions and customer dissatisfaction were minimized. Promotional incentives became commonplace, drawing in clientele who had been disillusioned by the fading company's inability to maintain quality. The atmosphere of change resonated throughout the industry, as established giants and newcomers alike recognized the necessity of adaptation. In this landscape, former customers of Adelphia found themselves courted by a variety of options that sought to meet their needs with agility and responsiveness. The decline of one company inadvertently paved the way for a dynamic transformation among its rivals, reshaping the future of cable television in profound ways. The emergence of broadband internet marked a significant shift in the landscape of communication and entertainment. As traditional cable services began to falter, this new technology offered consumers an alternative that was both accessible and versatile. The speed and reliability of broadband attracted millions, fostering a rapid adoption that rendered earlier cable packages less appealing. This transformation was particularly pronounced in urban regions, where infrastructure allowed for high-speed connectivity. Companies that had previously relied solely on cable subscriptions started exploring this new frontier. They recognized that broadband could provide not just internet access, but a platform for streaming video, online gaming, and various digital services. The versatility of this medium created a competitive environment, compelling many former cable giants to adapt or risk obsolescence. As broadband internet proliferated, it began to reshape consumer expectations. Viewers sought greater flexibility, desiring the ability to select content on demand rather than adhering to rigid programming schedules. The rise of streaming services further catalyzed this transition, providing an extensive library of content that was often more appealing than conventional cable offerings. In this shifting landscape, consumer preferences dictated the terms of engagement. Traditional cable's once dominant hold on the market weakened, leaving behind remnants of a bygone era and paving the way for a future dominated by digital connectivity. Strategic planning emerged as a cornerstone of corporate sustainability, an essential framework for companies navigating the turbulent waters of an evolving market. This process involves analyzing internal capabilities, market conditions, and consumer trends to create a coherent vision for the future. Without a clear strategy, organizations often drift, vulnerable to disruptions and competition. In this context, it becomes evident that a robust strategic plan is not merely a document but a living guide. It enables companies to anticipate changes, adapt to new challenges, and leverage opportunities. It fosters a culture of innovation, encouraging proactive responses to shifts in consumer preferences and technological advancements. The importance of this planning was starkly illustrated during the decline of several once prominent corporations, which failed to anticipate the seismic shifts in viewer habits. As digital platforms proliferated, the reluctance to pivot resulted in significant losses. Companies that neglected to implement comprehensive strategies witnessed not only financial decline, but also a degradation of brand loyalty. In contrast, those that embraced strategic foresight adapted, diversifying their offerings and exploring new revenue streams. This adaptability not only prolonged their existence, but also allowed them to thrive in an increasingly competitive landscape. Strategic planning thus serves as a vital lifeline, ensuring resilience and relevance in a world defined by constant change. The unfolding bankruptcy of this fading company led to significant tremors across the stock market. Investors, once drawn to its promises of growth and expansion, found themselves grappling with uncertainty. Shares plummeted sharply, reflecting a loss of confidence that resonated throughout the industry. Analysts observed a swift departure of capital, with many hedge funds and institutional investors liquidating their positions to mitigate losses. The once promising stock, which had reached dizzying heights, now languished at unprecedented lows. Trading volumes surged as panic set in. The sell-off was not merely a reaction to the company's mismanagement, but also a broader reflection of the cable industry's shifting landscape. Competitors, sensing an opportunity, positioned themselves to capture a market share left vulnerable by Adelphia's fall. The overall market index felt the impact, with declines in related sectors, signifying a ripple effect that extended beyond the confines of this company. Credit ratings agencies swiftly downgraded bonds associated with the company, further complicating its financial standing. analysts issued dire forecasts, predicting a challenging path toward recovery. The repercussions of this decline were felt for years, as the intricate web of partnerships and investments began to unravel. Trust in the cable market itself was shaken, leading many to reassess their long-held beliefs regarding the sustainability of traditional broadcasting models. Corporate leadership during this tumultuous period faced immense scrutiny. Decisions made at the highest levels often reflected a profound disconnect from the realities on the ground. Executives, operating under the weight of mounting debt and dwindling subscriber numbers, struggled to articulate a coherent vision for recovery. This uncertainty only compounded the difficulties faced by the fading company. A culture of secrecy and mismanagement permeated the organization, undermining trust among employees and stakeholders alike. Communication faltered, leaving many within the ranks unaware of the dire circumstances that surrounded them. Leadership's inability to foster a spirit of transparency resulted in a fractured workforce, each individual grappling with their own fears and uncertainties. Strategic missteps further exacerbated the decline. Instead of adapting to the shifting media landscape, efforts were often reactive rather than proactive. Investments in new technologies and platforms were sporadic and ill-timed, failing to keep pace with the rapid evolution of consumer preferences. As competitors embraced innovative approaches, this region's legacy players clung to outdated practices that no longer resonated with audiences. Consequently, the failure to navigate the crisis effectively led to a loss of market share. The brand, once a household name, slowly faded from prominence, leaving behind only remnants of its past glory. In the end, the leadership's choices echoed throughout the organization, marking a poignant chapter in the annals of corporate history. The long-term effects of Adelphia's decline on its employees were profound and far-reaching. Many individuals found themselves grappling with uncertainty as the company's financial instability unfolded. Job security dwindled, creating an atmosphere laden with anxiety. In this region, once bustling with ambition and teamwork, the air became thick with apprehension. Employees, once proud to represent a leading name in cable television, were now faced with an unsettling reality. This shift in morale was palpable. Long-standing relationships among colleagues began to fray as trust eroded, replaced by a sense of self-preservation. Many sought opportunities elsewhere, while others remained, navigating the complexities of a company in distress. The work environment transformed from one of collaboration to survival, where individual roles were scrutinized and contributions questioned. As the corporate structure deteriorated, so too did the opportunities for professional growth. Training programs vanished, and mentorship became a relic of the past. Employees, once encouraged to innovate and excel, were now stifled by a culture of fear and uncertainty. The remnants of a once thriving organization lingered, a ghostly reminder of what could have been. In time, the loss of purpose and direction led to a disconnection from the original mission of the company. The fading company became a symbol of decline, not just in profits, but in the very essence of its workforce. The integration of technology in customer service became an area where significant lessons could be gleaned from the fading company. Attempts to enhance user experiences often fell short, reflecting a disconnect between evolving consumer demands and outdated operational methods. Automated systems, designed to streamline communication, frequently left customers feeling isolated. The lack of human interaction in critical moments highlighted the limitations of technological solutions that were not properly aligned with the needs of the clientele. Feedback mechanisms intended to gauge satisfaction often resulted in insufficient data, providing only a glimpse into a larger, more complex issue. This region witnessed a growing frustration among users who sought immediate assistance, but found themselves navigating a maze of recorded messages. Their needs were not being met, leading to increased attrition and a sense of disillusionment. In the face of these challenges, it became essential to recognize that technology alone could not remedy deeper systemic problems. The company's experience underscored the importance of balancing innovation with genuine human connection. As customer service strategies evolved, it became clear that integrating technology effectively required an understanding of the human element. Insights gleaned from this chapter in the company's history serve as a reminder that success lies not only in technological advancement, but also in fostering relationships that build trust and loyalty. The evolution of media consumption marked a significant shift in viewer preferences and behaviors. Traditional cable television, once a dominant force, faced growing challenges as audiences increasingly gravitated towards streaming platforms. This transition was not merely a trend, it represented a fundamental change in how individuals engaged with content. The allure of on-demand viewing and the flexibility of subscription models drew many away from established providers. This region, once vibrant with the hustle of technicians and sales teams, began to show signs of decline. The once ubiquitous cable boxes, now relics of a bygone era, were replaced by sleek devices and apps that offered a wealth of choices at the fingertips of consumers. These new platforms utilized sophisticated algorithms to tailor experiences, creating a personalized viewing environment that cable struggled to replicate. Content creators and distributors also adapted to this shifting landscape. Original programming emerged as a defining feature of streaming services, reshaping the competitive dynamics of the industry. The fading company found itself unable to keep pace with these innovations, leading to a gradual erosion of its subscriber base. As audiences embraced the convenience of streaming, the once reliable revenue streams of cable television began to dwindle, illuminating the stark realities of a changing media landscape. Shareholder activism emerged as a pivotal force, reshaping corporate governance in a landscape marked by increasing discontent. Investors, disillusioned by declining returns, began to assert their influence, demanding transparency and accountability from leadership. This movement gained traction as stakeholders sought to realign corporate strategies with market realities, pushing for changes that could potentially restore profitability. In this context, the voices of concerned shareholders grew louder, challenging long-standing practices of complacency within the boardroom. They advocated for operational efficiencies and a reevaluation of business priorities. Decisions that once rested solely in the hands of executives were now subject to scrutiny and debate. This shift signified a departure from a traditional governance model, where management held disproportionate power, to one where investor interests could dictate the company's trajectory. The growing clamor for change often led to contentious annual meetings, where the dynamics of influence were palpable. Votes on key issues intensified, reflecting a landscape where shareholders were unwilling to remain passive observers. The actions taken by these activists highlighted the critical intersection of finance and governance, emphasizing accountability in the face of underperformance. Amid declining fortunes, the once stalwart entities faced mounting pressure to adapt, catalyzing transformation within a corporate culture resistant to change. This evolution encapsulated the shifting nature of authority in the realm of corporate oversight, a reflection of broader socioeconomic trends. Many former employees sought new opportunities in the wake of the cable television company's decline, often reflecting on their experiences with a mixture of regret and resilience. The transition into new roles was marked by a range of emotional and professional challenges. Some individuals leveraged their extensive knowledge of the telecommunications industry, finding positions in competing firms or related sectors. This migration highlighted the skills acquired during their tenure, particularly in customer service and technical support. Networking became vital for those navigating this shift. Former employees often turned to each other for support, forming connections that would lead to job referrals and shared experiences. Re-entering the workforce, they encountered a landscape transformed by technological advancements and changing consumer demands. Adaptability became essential, with many seeking additional training or certifications to enhance their employability. Others ventured into entrepreneurial endeavors, inspired by the lessons learned from the fading company. Small businesses emerged, focusing on areas such as digital marketing, consultancy, and telecommunications, often emphasizing integrity and transparency that had been lacking in their previous environment. This newfound independence allowed individuals to redefine their professional identities, fostering a sense of empowerment amidst the uncertainties of the corporate world. These narratives illustrate the resilience of the human spirit, showcasing how adversity can lead to growth and reinvention in the face of corporate disintegration. Ethical leadership emerges as a cornerstone in the preservation of corporate integrity, especially during periods of turmoil. Instances of corporate failure, such as that experienced by Adelphia, often trace back to lapses in moral judgment at the highest levels. These lapses not only erode trust among employees, but also alienate stakeholders who place significant value on transparency and accountability. Leadership must cultivate an environment where ethical considerations take precedence over mere profit margins. This region, once vibrant with corporate promise, serves as a reminder of the consequences stemming from decisions driven by greed rather than principled values. When short-term gains overshadow ethical responsibilities, the foundations of an organization can crumble, leading to devastating fallout. Companies bearing the weight of ethical leadership are more likely to navigate crises without sacrificing their core values. Trust becomes a firm anchor in turbulent times, enabling businesses to weather storms that would otherwise lead to their decline. This concept resonates through the empty halls of once thriving enterprises, where lessons learned remain etched in the remnants of failed ventures. The legacy of ethical leadership continues to influence emerging organizations, shaping their cultures and guiding their missions. Attention to ethics fosters not only a sustainable business model, but also a community of individuals committed to shared success, thereby ensuring a more resilient corporate landscape. Miscalculations in risk management profoundly shaped the trajectory of Adelphia. Financial practices, characterized by a lack of transparency, concealed mounting debts and obligations from stakeholders. This region, once bustling with the vibrancy of innovation and expansion, fell victim to the consequences of unchecked ambition. The reliance on aggressive growth strategies overlooked fundamental principles of fiscal responsibility. It became apparent that the company's executives underestimated the volatility of the telecommunications market. They misjudged their capacity to navigate competitive pressures and technological advancements. Unsustainable acquisitions drained resources and diverted attention from core operations. Misplaced trust in inflated revenue projections led to a culture of complacency. The fallout from these decisions manifested in various ways. Investors, initially drawn by the allure of rapid growth, faced disillusionment as the reality of declining stock prices set in. Employees grappled with uncertainty as layoffs and structural changes became inevitable. These ruins of a once promising enterprise illustrate the critical need for a balanced approach to risk. Lessons learned extend beyond the confines of Adelphia, serving as a cautionary tale for future enterprises. The importance of transparent communication, prudent financial management, and a comprehensive understanding of market dynamics cannot be overstated. Such insights remain vital for cultivating resilience in an ever-evolving business environment. The decline of this influential cable television company serves as a cautionary tale for the industry. Once a titan of media, it encountered an array of challenges that financial mismanagement further exacerbated the situation. Overextension in acquiring assets and underestimating the impact of emerging technologies drained resources. The resulting debt burden proved insurmountable, and the organization filed for bankruptcy in the early 2000s. Stakeholders witnessed a rapid unraveling of what was once a formidable entity. Lessons from this decline highlight the necessity for adaptability within the cable industry. Companies must embrace innovation, reevaluating their strategies to meet changing consumer demands. The importance of transparency in financial practices cannot be overstated, as trust erodes quickly in the face of mismanagement. In this region, the remnants of Adelphia serve as a reminder of the consequences of complacency. The future of cable television hinges on a keen understanding of market dynamics and an unwavering commitment to evolve. By acknowledging past failures, the industry may find a path toward renewal, fostering a landscape that prioritizes resilience and foresight. Adelphia's bankruptcy served as a pivotal moment, creating ripples throughout the cable television sector. The collapse was not merely a financial misstep, but a reflection of deeper systemic issues. Mismanagement and fraudulent practices contributed to staggering losses, leaving investors and employees in disarray. This event prompted an urgent reevaluation of corporate governance within the industry. In its aftermath, regulatory bodies intensified scrutiny over the financial practices of cable companies. Enhanced transparency measures were implemented, requiring more detailed disclosures regarding financial health and operational practices. These changes aim to restore public trust, a crucial element for the industry's survival in an increasingly competitive market. Companies began to adopt stricter compliance protocols, ensuring that the mistakes of the past were not repeated. The consequences of this failure extended beyond immediate financial repercussions. Competitors, learning from Adelphia's miscalculations, sought to innovate and differentiate themselves. Investment shifted towards technology advancements, including digital services and internet protocol television. This adaptation was essential in addressing the evolving demands of consumers, who increasingly sought diverse viewing options. As the cable landscape transformed, the lessons learned from this downfall became a common thread in discussions among industry leaders. A collective commitment to ethical practices and robust oversight took root, signaling a new chapter for the cable television sector. Such reforms, born from adversity, underscored the importance of vigilance in a rapidly changing marketplace. The evolving landscape necessitated a reliance on external auditors to maintain integrity within financial practices. These professionals were tasked with scrutinizing the complex financial statements that emerged from this fading company. Their role became increasingly critical as instances of misrepresentation and fraud began to surface, revealing a troubling narrative within the organization. Auditors aimed to provide an objective assessment, ensuring that financial reports accurately reflected the company's reality. This function was particularly vital in a climate where trust had eroded and skepticism loomed large. Through meticulous examination, they sought to identify discrepancies that might indicate deeper issues, serving not only as watchdogs, but also as advisors in a time of uncertainty. Despite their best efforts, the intricate web of deceit that enveloped this organization proved challenging to untangle. Attempts to illuminate financial irregularities were often met with resistance. The corporate culture favored secrecy and obfuscation, complicating the auditor's mission. Nevertheless, their presence was a necessary bulwark against potential malfeasance. While they could not single-handedly prevent the downfall, their diligence served as a reminder of the safeguards that should have been in place, the inadequacies of oversight. The impact of corporate scandals on industry reputation extends far beyond the confines of a single company. In the case of Adelphia, the revelations of financial misconduct reverberated throughout the telecommunications sector, casting a long shadow over competitors and partners alike. Stakeholders, wary of the implications, began to question the integrity of the entire industry. Trust, once a currency in business relationships, diminished rapidly. This region of corporate governance became scrutinized as investors sought assurance that their interests were safeguarded. The erosion of confidence prompted a reevaluation of practices across multiple firms, leading to stricter regulatory measures and oversight provisions. Companies found themselves under the watchful eye of both regulators and the public, striving to demonstrate transparency where once there was complacency. The fallout from these events initiated a broader conversation about ethical practices and accountability in business. It highlighted the necessity for a culture that prioritizes integrity over short-term gains. These ruins of reputational damage served as a cautionary tale, reminding firms that negligence could result in catastrophic consequences. Amid the financial upheaval, competitors reevaluated their strategies, adopting more rigorous compliance programs. The landscape of the cable television industry shifted, leaving an indelible mark on its evolution. What was once an unassailable giant became a poignant reminder of fragility in corporate structures. Innovations in customer engagement, once a focal point for the fading company, were overshadowed by mismanagement and declining trust. Customer service initiatives, originally designed to enhance loyalty, instead became a source of frustration. Promised advancements in technology and personalized experiences faltered, leaving clients disillusioned. The allure of interactive programming and customer-focused features remained unfulfilled, as internal strife diverted resources and attention. These ruins of failure underscore the importance of transparency in communications with customers. Frequent misstatements regarding service capabilities alienated a once loyal base. Transparency nurtures trust, a fundamental element in sustaining relationships. In stark contrast, the absence of clear and honest dialogue cultivated an environment of skepticism and dissatisfaction. The lessons from this decline extend beyond mere service failures. Adapting to customer feedback is vital for maintaining relevance in a rapidly evolving market. The company's inability to pivot in response to client needs became a significant factor in its downfall. Competitors observing these missteps embraced agile methodologies, fostering a culture of innovation and responsiveness. The contrast between their successes and the fading company's stagnation highlights the necessity of aligning strategic objectives with consumer expectations. This region of corporate history serves as a testament to the imperative of proactive engagement and the dire consequences of neglecting the voice of the customer. The decline of the fading company illustrates the critical importance of diversification in business strategy. A singular focus on one market segment can lead to vulnerabilities that are readily exploited by competitors. In this case, the saturation of the cable television market left the organization exposed to rapid changes in consumer preferences and technology. A lack of investment in alternative revenue streams rendered it ill-prepared for emerging threats. During this period, rival companies began to explore new avenues, incorporating internet services, streaming platforms, and digital content production. This proactive approach allowed them to capture a broader audience and mitigate risks associated with market fluctuations. The fading company, however, remained tethered to its traditional offerings, which contributed to its eventual collapse. The absence of diversification not only stifled innovation, but also diminished its ability to adapt. As customer demands shifted towards on-demand content and mobile accessibility, the organization's rigid structure made it difficult to pivot. This stagnation further exacerbated its decline, as it failed to meet the evolving needs of subscribers. In retrospect, the lessons drawn from this corporate failure emphasize the necessity of a multifaceted approach in business. Strategic diversification can safeguard against the unpredictable nature of the market, ensuring resilience and long-term sustainability in an ever-changing landscape. The decline of Adelphia reverberated throughout the telecommunications landscape, reshaping the dynamics of competition and consumer choice. Once a formidable presence, its unraveling left a void that competitors rushed to fill. The fallout from financial mismanagement and allegations of fraud cast a shadow over the perception of the entire industry, prompting regulatory scrutiny and calls for increased oversight. In this region of corporate upheaval, rival companies seized the opportunity to capture market share. They expanded their service offerings, often at reduced prices, aiming to attract disillusioned customers seeking alternatives. This shift fostered a climate of aggressive competition, where service quality and customer satisfaction became focal points in marketing strategies. The impact extended beyond mere market adjustments. Investors grew increasingly cautious, reassessing risk in the telecommunications sector. Capital investment slowed, with stakeholders demanding greater transparency and accountability from emerging players. This new scrutiny altered the trajectory of many companies, leading to a more conservative approach to expansion and innovation. Technological advancements, previously viewed as a hallmark of progress, were overshadowed by the ramifications of Adelphia's fall. Companies became more hesitant to adopt bold initiatives, fearing the repercussions of overextension. The telecommunications landscape, once vibrant and full of promise, found itself navigating a period marked by caution and restraint, echoing the lessons of a fading company. The burden of debt loomed heavily over the fading company, shaping its trajectory, and this region became saturated with telecommunications options, and the pressure to maintain subscriber growth intensified. As its revenues began to falter, the weight of outstanding obligations became more pronounced. The inability to service debt led to a series of financial missteps, undermining confidence among investors and stakeholders. In an attempt to mask the growing financial strain, misleading accounting practices were employed, further entangling the company in a web of mistrust. The eventual unraveling revealed the stark reality of its financial state. Regulatory scrutiny intensified, leading to a cascade of legal challenges that exacerbated its already tenuous position. Creditors grew anxious, and the once promising future of this telecommunications entity dimmed. The collapse of this telecommunications entity serves as a critical case study in corporate accountability. It reveals the intricate web of responsibility that extends beyond mere financial performance, encompassing the ethical dimensions of leadership and governance. The decisions made by executives not only impacted the company's trajectory, but also affected employees, investors, and the communities served. In examining the prevailing culture within this organization, a pattern emerges. A relentless pursuit of growth overshadowed ethical considerations, leading to an environment where transparency was sacrificed for short-term gains. The erosion of trust among stakeholders became evident as financial misstatements and lack of oversight raised alarms. This deterioration highlighted the necessity for robust internal controls and ethical decision-making frameworks. Lessons drawn from this decline emphasize the importance of accountability at all levels. Leadership must prioritize transparency, ensuring that all actions align with the long-term interests of stakeholders. Regular audits and independent oversight can serve as safeguards against potential misconduct. Furthermore, fostering a culture that values ethical behavior can create a resilient organization, better equipped to navigate challenges. The rise and fall of this entity encapsulate the essence of corporate responsibility. It underscores that the health of any organization relies not solely on its financial metrics, but also on a foundation built upon trust, integrity, and accountability. The cable industry, once shadowed by the collapse of Adelphia, began to find its footing in the wake of that significant failure. This period marked an opportunity for competitors to reassess strategies and reinforce their commitment to transparency. New entrants emerged, bringing innovative technologies and business models that redefine the landscape. The shift towards digital streaming, high-definition content, and on-demand services attracted a fresh audience, eager for diverse viewing options. Throughout this region, companies invested heavily in infrastructure upgrades, enhancing both service reliability and customer satisfaction. They prioritized building relationships with consumers, striving to restore faith in a sector that had faced scrutiny. The introduction of bundled services allowed for more competitive pricing, appealing to those disillusioned by past practices. Regulatory frameworks evolved alongside these shifts, fostering an environment for accountability and oversight. This evolution ensured that stakeholders remained vigilant, ensuring that the lessons learned from Adelphia's downfall would not be forgotten. Increased competition contributed to an atmosphere where innovation thrived, leading to advancements in technology and service delivery. As a result, the cable industry gradually regained its stature, demonstrating a remarkable capacity for recovery. The resilience displayed by these companies reflects not only a commitment to growth, but also an acknowledgement of the complex dynamics inherent in maintaining trust and integrity within a challenging marketplace. A closer examination of this particular case reveals a cascade of mismanagement and ethical lapses that the decline was not instantaneous, rather, it unfolded gradually as internal strife and external scrutiny chipped away at the company's credibility. A culture that once fostered innovation and ambition transformed into one marred by distrust and disillusionment. Leadership decisions, once aimed at expansion, were revealed as misguided, leading to an eventual unraveling of the business's core values. This region, once vibrant with the promise of new media, now stands as a haunting reminder of the fragility of corporate integrity. The failure of this entity serves as a cautionary tale for other organizations navigating similar waters. Maintaining ethical standards and fostering an environment that prioritizes honesty can be the distinguishing factor between enduring success and catastrophic failure. In the annals of corporate history, the lessons from this experience resonate powerfully, underscoring the necessity for vigilance against complacency in the pursuit of growth.